And welcome back, Dean Opie Dollar Show. Welcome to Millennial Hour. Right here we got Jamira Burley, who's on Snapchat, taking a selfie of herself while on Twitter and Facebooking it. All together at the same time. Jamira,
of course,
internationally recognized speaker, social justice advocate, mentor. She guest hosts a lot on SiriusXM. In fact, all week you can hear her 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Eastern time. And she's giddy because she slept about 2 hours, I think. Thank you for coming in.
No problem.
Especially because you worked all morning. Then you worked, did other stuff, corporate life stuff. And now you're back here and you're going to go home. When do you prepare, by the way, when you're doing 6 a.m.?
I watch the news all day and I read stuff all day. And Twitter keeps me informed. It tells me what's the issues of the day. And then, yeah.
So tomorrow morning you wake up and just go right in and boom?
Oh, yeah. Prepare. I'm reading articles as I'm talking.
Wow.
Yeah.
I'm
or 15 minutes before I'll choose my top 10 things I want to discuss in the first hour.
All right. So this is, and by the way, you enjoying it at 6 a.m.?
Oh, I love it. I love callers.
You have a lot of callers.
There's a lot of callers, but also I like people teaching me something, and I like people who have a good rationale for why they believe it, even if I disagree. I think it's interesting. Interesting. And people call 6:30 in the morning. They're awake. Oh, they do. Yeah, they definitely they love it. I mean, and they're very aware of what's happening, and they're very conscious, and they have very thought out comments.
Do you get a sense they've been up all night thinking about Trump stuff? They're like, I've been up all night. God, finally you're on air. I've got things to talk about. This guy's driving me crazy.
I've been waiting for you to get
right, because I'm losing my mind. Because there are times I'm in bed staring at the ceiling at 3 a.m. I'm just like, Trump, that son of a. It's not him in general, a specific thing. I'm like, this is so bad. What's going on? And
you keep reading.
I've gotten
better.
Keep
looking, yeah.
I've gotten better, but there was times early in the administration that there were times I was not sleeping well because of him, and then I learned about Tylenol PM, and then
so now you self-medicate.
I can self-medicate, and now but look, if you take this politics personal, and maybe I'm at fault for taking it too personally, but I can't help it, and I feel it, and I feel. Not just when attacks on my community, the Muslim community, but any community, I feel that connection. And I never felt it more than in the time of Trump, frankly, during the campaign and then especially as president, where we've got to stand up for each other very much so. That's our strength, is that we all united in this.
No, I agree. I to your point, I'm also feel personally connected. So I get emotion, my stomach gets in knots when I read about certain things. I'm just beyond discuss it. And you hear it in the voices of the callers. I think people are fatigued, but they're even more disgusted.
Well, we've been talking a lot about what's going on with the horrific, inhumane, I think, crime against humanity issues of the migrant kids. And I hate the term migrant, but that's technically what they are. But they're children. Before we get into that, because we have, let me take an emotional break from it, because it's a hard issue. And I keep talking about about the kids who are brought here for a better life, and this is the horrific stuff they have. But let's talk about a few other issues. I wanted to get your take. Joe Biden, obviously, the famous thing. He was in a caucus with James O. Eastland. He said he never called me boy. He always calls me son. And he referenced another segregationist, Talmadge. And then, and I read all his quotes for people from that, because we don't have audio. It was a reporter writing it down. And he went on to say that at least there was some civility. We got things done. We didn't agree on much of anything. We got things done. We got it finished. Look at each other today. We're the enemy, not the opposition. We're the enemy. So before I play Biden speaking to Reverend Al on Saturday, sort of clarifying it, what do you think of these remarks?
I think the same thing. It's actually a reflection of what I think Joe Biden is in the era in which he comes from. I don't 100% dislike Joe Biden, but I think he represents an America that no longer exists. I think he represents a time that we have now surpassed, because even the Congress in which he referenced, you don't have people working across the aisle. It is so divided across party lines. And the fact that you can have Republicans seeing the policy that Trump is pushing out and their moral compass is not kicking in, I think goes to show you that what he's talking about, the good old days, does no longer exist. And also the good old days of a time where people of color were still being persecuted and being discriminated by the people he were collaborating against. So it's BS to me.
There is truth to the idea of working with people you don't agree with, as hard as it seems today. But look at, you have people who are big fans of AOC who go after Biden on this. Yet AOC is working with Ted Cruz, a man who has said that the LGBT community was waging a jihad, his exact words, on people of faith. And that is ginning up hate. And he said it in the 2016 campaign. That is ginning up hate. That's the kind of words that lead to hate crimes and stuff like that. Yep. It's vile. It's despicable. But AOC is working with him on lobbying issues, and I think maybe even 2 issues. So do you say because he's vile and despicable on LGBT issues you won't work with him? or is it fair to compartmentalize and say, well, we agree on this really important issue and not many other on the right agree with it, so I should work with them on this issue?
I think it's fair to collaborate and to find ways in which you can work together. I think the problem is that when you collaborate with people and when you work with them, you unfortunately to some extent legitimize them. And you unconsciously show some level of support for the views in which they have. The problem is also Ted Cruz doesn't have any power. So you're now working with someone who potentially can't even help you get a bill passed. So you're taking on this heaviness of, I think, what's going to happen, this hate and discrimination that she's all going to face. And eventually for a bill that may not even find its way to the floor.
I guess the only way to make anything happen in the Senate is to give a contract to Mitch McConnell's
wife.
The constituents or his wife or somebody
or his
in
wife,
Kentucky.
Family.
Right, exactly. If you want something to move in the Senate, that's the only way, because Mitch McConnell's not going to move anything because it's good on bills. Now this is a short clip. Reverend Al did a longer interview. Here's a short clip of Joe Biden explaining the boy comment. And here, I understand what he meant here, but I don't think this was the issue, though. I mean, here's clip number 7.
Hurts when you talk about boy. It means something different to us. It hurts when you call a racist like you normalize. That's not the Biden I got to know. Don't you understand?
No, I do fully understand. That's not what I said, though. They didn't print the whole deal. You know what I mean? The context of this was totally different. I do understand the consequence of the word boy, but it wasn't said in any of that context at all.
But you understand, they would They would never call me son. They would only call me boy.
But they called they called Teddy Kennedy boy. That was the distinction. The reason he called me senator was to demean me more because son, because he said, I'm not even qualified to be in the Senate. I'm not old enough. I'm a kid. I'm a kid.
I mean, when you hear that, I understand what he's saying. He's sort of saying, like, I didn't use the term boy as being in any way pejorative against someone who's black. Like, no one's accusing you of that. You just used the term. Like, they never called me boy. You're a white guy. They're not going to call you boy. So I don't know what's going on. I have no idea what's going on, frankly.
I think he's trying to equate what he felt in the moment about how he was being, downgraded to being considered a child in a very they thought a very adult space, to what people are feeling in regards to the racial tension of individuals that we know were racist at the time. And of course they weren't. Why would he even bring up boy if it had no correlation to the conversation? So I feel like he's now trying to walk it back versus just to say he was wrong, just to say that he understands the context and that how he meant it was taken out of context. And I think Joe Biden is now constantly finding himself in a situation where he doesn't want to admit he's wrong, so he just pretends that it wasn't his intention.
The thing about Joe Biden, and I say this in objectivity and in hopefully things get better, but when I watch Joe Biden now, I understand why he lost so badly in 2008.
Everyone
to
says
Barack
he's a
Obama.
bad candidate.
And I think he's probably a better candidate because he was vice president. He served. He did a lot more public speaking in that regard. And he knows the issues inside and out. Potentially, he could get better. There's a reason why his campaign is keeping him away from the media as much as possible.
Because he doesn't know how to shut up.
There could be a good thing like that. People find him endearing. I don't know, but you tend to, the more you talk, the more people can parse your words. Or if you say something stupid and it's a gaffe, and then you have to explain that away. Now,
but that's why I don't think he's going to improve. Like, we're talking about a person who should be hella seasonal. He is like the most seasoned candidate right now. He's ran for president, 3 times?
Well, this is his 3rd time.
Yeah, his third
First
time.
time he dropped out pretty quickly. Second time he lost horribly in Iowa.
So I just feel like at this point, if you don't understand the pulse of America and what is going to be triggering for you to say, you should not be running for president right now. Like, sit back and let the new generation come forward.
Well, let me ask you the other side to this. Since Trump has so redefined what is vile and despicable in a way, like to new levels, like little things, just say organic, like real gaffes, not about race. Like Biden just has real gaffes that are actually laughable.
Yeah.
There could have been a time that could disqualify you. Now we're like, who cares? You didn't say anything like, let's ban all Muslims.
Yeah.
Or, black people have low IQs and are dumb and unintelligent. You just said something stupid.
Yeah.
And I think you can get away with more as a Democrat as long as you're not, and even with probably average Americans, as long as it's just a mistake. People make mistakes. This is life. You can make a mistake.
Then just say that.
So is part of the problem him not saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it, the idea of he doesn't get that part?
Yes. Joe Biden reminds me of my uncle who never wants to admit he's wrong, but constantly is talking and saying foolish things all the time. And I think that he is reflective of a generation that doesn't want to move with the times, that doesn't want to change his opinion. And I think many people would find it more endearing if he's just like, I'm learning. I'm trying. I do believe I am the best candidate.
Right.
Here's where I'm wrong. And this is why I brought in this person to be my advisor. This is why I'm listening to this individual and talking to these communities. He's not even seeming like he's going out talking to people in a real way to hear what they're saying and hear their thoughts. He's reacting very negatively to proper criticism that people should have. And I think the problem that Joe Biden has is that he's in a pool with 20 or so other candidates. And unfortunately, those kind of gaffes are going to be glaring because you already have a party that mostly agrees on everything else.
Is there any chance has a lasting impact on Biden, or do you think it takes some more things?
I think he's going to give it another week. It'll be something else. We've seen
that.
Well,
look at with Trump, to be blunt, that the more, if you do one bad thing, and that's all you do, the media stays on that for like 3 months, not every day, but it comes up over and over.
Yeah.
And people go, did you learn about that? When you do like 20 bad things like Trump, I mean, this is almost like a strategy. And I don't think it was a strategy for him.
Oh, it's definitely a strategy for him now. It's to knock one thing off the
Well, now
media,
definitely, because he learns how easy the media is to throw a bone. And they go like, oh, look, the tweet. Oh, he retweeted somebody. And sometimes you got to call it out. He's retweeting white supremacy. He retweeted one a week ago. Got no press. It was a British anti-Muslim bigot who I know who she is. And it got no press here. That's the world we live in.
Yeah, things that are making the news oftentimes should not make the news, and things that should be making the news don't.
Well, all right. So let's talk about, last time you were here 2 weeks ago, let's talk about Donald Trump, because in the Netflix great miniseries called When They See Us, there was a clip there I had never seen. And I'll play just to remind you, then we'll play the new clip from what he said last week. So here is, we should call this Trump's a bi-weekly look at Trump's comments in the Central Park Five. This is from the miniseries on the Central Park Five. And then I had never heard this from 1989. This is Trump about how he wants to come back as a black guy. I'm not even kidding. Clip number 8. This is real.
A well-educated black has a tremendous advantage over a well-educated white in terms of the job market. And I think sometimes a black may think that they don't really have the advantage or this or that, but in actuality, today, currently, it's a great, I've said on occasion, even about myself, if I was starting off today, I would love to be a well-educated black because I really believe they do have an actual advantage today.
So Trump wanted to come back as a well-educated black. We discussed that at length. But it was in a documentary on the Central Park Five, which we've covered on the show. Everyone knows they were teens, 14 through 16 years old, coerced into confessions, wrongfully convicted, freed. Later, everything was dismissed, including the indictment. They were paid over $40 million in taxpayer dollars. They would not have been if they were not completely innocent, folks, I can assure you. There's no doubt about it. But Donald Trump asked about it last week by April Ryan, because this miniseries is getting a lot of buzz and people are talking about it again. And he's asked by April Ryan about this. And Linda Fairstein, to remind people, was the prosecutor in the case. Let's hear Donald Trump on will he apologize, because I forgot to add, and I think people know it though, he bought full-page ads calling for a death penalty. So actually calling for these kids to be put to death before they were convicted. It was early on in the investigation. And he was asked just last week, would you apologize to the kids because they were all innocent? Here's clip number 9.
Mr. President, will you apologize to Central Park 5? They've been exonerated. There have been videos and movies shown about the case, and you came out with a full-page ad saying that they should die. They say you have the death penalty.
Why do you bring that question up now? It's an interesting time to bring it up. You have people on both sides of that. They admitted their guilt. If you look at Linda Fairstein and if you look at some of the prosecutors, they think that the city should never have settled that case. So we'll leave it at that.
We'll leave it at white supremacy. We're going to both sides. Remember, Charlottesville, both sides. When he's talking white supremacy, it's both sides. He's not a guy who is measured or nuanced about responses. So what's your reaction to that, garbage?
I think it's so funny because he waives the Mueller report as his being cleared and being innocent, right? Because there was a proper investigation. And now when the justice system has done the same thing against something that he doesn't agree with, it doesn't apply to these young men. And I just think it's mind-boggling that he can stand there and still pretend as if there was no evidence to support the claims that these young men was guilty. We have an individual who came forward and actually admitted his guilt. And I just find it really disgusting that the only people that had sympathy for these young men at the time was a convicted rapist who felt more guilty for them to enough to admit than you had a businessman like Donald Trump who like harped on it. Like there was no reason for him to buy an ad. Like no reason for him to come out and call for the death penalty of all things. Not that they get arrested, not that they face justice, but we should put them in the we should electrocute them. We should put them to death like young children.
I think he was actually thinking about running for mayor, and that was going to be part of his campaign. That's what was going on, because that was the time. Then Giuliani runs instead, and so because
could you imagine New York with Trump as mayor?
Well, there he began with racism and bigotry right there with this ad, no different than Mexico sending rapists that he did when he ran for president.
Which is interesting because this was around the same time that he was married to his second wife, the one that his wife with Tiffany who accused him of rape. Yes.
I think the first wife accused him of rape.
I thought it was also Marla Maples, Tiffany's mother.
Did. Maybe, I'm not sure. I know the first one did because in a book, and then she pulled it. She goes, "No, I was."
But it's so interesting that all of these things that he is dealing with these all things within his own life, and yet he still can throw so much shame and shade on other people. He's just disgusting.
He is. So, I mean, look, in his outreach to the African-American community, and he's going to do this in 2020 more than what the hell you have to lose, he's going to talk about his remarkable criminal justice reform bill. He'll talk about it all the time. Meanwhile,
Kim Kardashian will probably endorse him.
Right. So, and Kanye will endorse him twice. Kanye will endorse both the Democrat and the Republican, probably.
Of course.
I like you both. That's my Kanye impression. So what do you think, though, about when he does stuff like this, when he will not acknowledge that Central Park 5 were innocent? Because he's clearly not. He's defending the prosecution that they're guilty, even though they are not guilty. They don't get paid $40 million in taxpayer dollars when they're guilty, folks. It doesn't happen. And everything was not only overturned, literally their indictment was dismissed as if it never existed. And that's the world we live in. And they had no DNA.
Yeah.
They allegedly raped a woman and none of their DNA was on the woman's body. It's stunning that they actually had a trial on this and it wasn't dismissed before that.
Because they claimed that there was a sixth assailant.
Right. And all of his DNA was the only one there, right?
Which still makes no sense that there were 6 people and there's only one person whose DNA was there, and it happens to be the one person that's not been arrested.
And there's no evidence that they knew the
each
guy,
other.
Mateus Reyes, knew any other 5. So
they didn't know each other either.
So how important do you think, now you're going to be forced to speak for the entire black community? I'm sorry.
I'm always down to speak for my people.
That's right. So
Fist up.
on behalf of all your people here across the great nation, does an issue like Donald Trump's comments here on the Central Park 5 and refusing in 2019, this isn't like 1989, 2019 saying this in the heat of the campaign, does this meaningful, significant? Does it do anything?
I think it solidifies to the black community that Donald Trump isn't for them, that he's not supportive of them. I mean, even his ruling or his criminal justice reform bills were done out of publicity, not because he wants to support black people. It was an opportunity for him to look good. And I think that he's not going to have a large base of black people that come out for him. It's so funny. I came across something the other day called Black Millennials for Trump.
It was one person.
It was literally one person, and even all the people that they follow are white people on their Twitter account. So I just find it very ironic. I think black people know that he's not a candidate that cares about us, that wants us to have any sort of power or any sort of justice. And we've seen that with his policies and his rhetoric.
And for those who, I'm going to say this, I'm sure you all know this, President Obama had championed criminal justice reform.
Yeah.
Mitch McConnell did not let it come to a vote. And I just wrote about it for CNN a few weeks ago when I went back and looked at some of the stories. Mitch McConnell did not let it come to a vote to help Donald Trump, because Donald Trump's campaign pledge, his theme in 2016 said America's carnage and crime everywhere. And it was going to split the GOP Senate caucus. Democrats are all on board to have a bill on criminal justice reform at the same time the GOP nominee is saying crime is rampant. Well, how do you do criminal justice reform at the same time? So Mitch McConnell, even though it would have easily passed the Senate, we don't know if it would have passed the House, but it would have passed the Senate. McConnell sat on it and crushed it. And that's so, it's not that President Obama didn't want criminal justice reform. It's not. He released, as Joe Biden just talked about in some interview, I think with Reverend Al, thousands of people early on purpose doing what he could through executive decision.
But then that's the question for the American public and for voters, right? It's recognizing that the president, the position of president is extremely important, but without having control of the House and Senate, it's hard for them to get policy actually passed beyond doing an executive order. So for those who are listening, trying to figure out how you get engaged, then stay engaged, vote for elections beyond just the president election. Local elections matter because it all feeds up to who has the ability to actually make legislation.
I agree. And, I used to be against getting rid of the filibuster so much. And then now I'm at the point where I'm like, you know what? Democrats win the Senate by, even at 50-50, and we win the presidency, we can vote. It's not like the Republicans are going to pass things that are going to be, it's not like they're going to pass policy that's good. It's only good for companies. They'll do tax cuts for the rich.
Yeah.
But if we don't have control of the Senate, and we're not going to get 60 votes for a lifetime now at this point, you can't pass bills that help people. And that's what we want to do. So the only way to do that is to really get rid of the filibuster.
Yeah.
And there is that risk that the Republicans get control again, they do something and roll it back. But it's very hard to roll back programs that are working for people. Good luck doing that. And you're going to pay a dear price after that. So
I mean, we saw that with the Affordable Care Act, right? And once people have it, they see the benefit. It's hard for elected officials to justify taking it away.
And while they couldn't take it away, it was such a big issue in 2018. It helped us take the House back.
Yep.
So that was a big thing. All right, let's take a quick break. Come back with our friend Jamira Burley, and maybe we'll talk a little bit about, you were talking about exoneration. Well, E. Jean Carroll, the woman who said Trump literally raped her, Trump made some comments a short time ago. We'll come back and talk about those right here. Look, it's time the media start calling out Trump's false statements for what they are. Lies. Trump is a liar. And by the looks of it, he's lying every day and twice on Sundays.
The Dean Obadala Show.
Back to the Dean Obadala Show on SiriusXM Progress.
And welcome back to the Dean Obadala Show. We're live Monday, June 24th in studio, Jamira Burley. So we're talking about right now, just for a few minutes, we'll talk about the children, which are much more important. But E. Jean Carroll, who came forward last week and said Trump raped her back in 1990s at a department store. Trump said, I didn't know her, I never met her, then there's pictures of them together. And now Trump just said a short time ago that she's not my type. And then number one, she's not my type. Number two, it never happened. You think number one would be first, more important. Like, I never happened. I didn't do it. But no, she's not my type. Because if she was his type, it could have happened. That's what he's suggesting.
That's exactly what this
He's like, I only rape women who are my type.
Who are gorgeous and sexy at the moment. Yeah.
I mean, does this... It is so sad that this doesn't even seem to get a blip. It gets a little coverage. This will be gone in a couple of days. You can, although E. Jean Carroll is going on TV and talking about it now more. She was just on CNN and she was on earlier on other shows.
I think if she was pressing charges, it might get a little bit more attention.
That's the key. I actually think it is. You have to fight criminal charges.
Because I think it's going to be hard for people, the average American, and even those who believe her, to say, well, why talk about it if you're not going to press charges? And you're in the one state that you can press charges. There's no statute of limitations. And so I think it's going to be hard for people to grapple with, especially considering what we've already heard about other accusations thus far about, like, why not? If this can prevent him from doing it to someone else.
I agree. I agree 100%. So, or before we talk about the migrant kids, now you're a millennial. You're going to have to speak for all millennials.
Hey, millennials.
This is it. So Bernie Sanders has got a new proposal today, getting some decent amount of press, to eliminate all student loan debt. I mean, it does a few things. First, it eliminates tuition and fees at all public four-year colleges and universities, as well as makes community colleges, trade schools, and apprentice programs tuition free. And I like that it goes beyond colleges. I like that it goes to apprentice programs and trade schools. It would wipe out $1.6 trillion in student loans, covering 45 million Americans. All of them. Anybody with a student loan, it's just gone, right? If this program gets funded and everything. And the way to pay for it's convoluted. We're not getting into that. First of all, as a millennial, hearing someone say, I'm going to get rid of it. We'll talk about Liz Warren's in a second. Her plan is a little more limited, but it's still bold. What do you think of Bernie Sanders' plan?
I love it. I mean, I as a first generation college student, the first of my family of 16 to graduate and go to college, I have $70,000 in debt. Wow. So as far as I'm concerned, anybody who has a plan, a strategy to fix the student debt crisis is I'm willing to hear you. I'm willing to see your plan and strategy, because I think you have millions of Americans, particularly millions of millennials and Gen Zers who are now going into college, who are grappling with taking on hundreds of $1,000s of debt just to get a 4-year degree, that we're now finding out that people are looking at a 4-year degree like a high school diploma. It's not even having the same type of standards. But I will say what I don't like about both Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders' proposal is that I don't think it really fits the crises, which is the fact that universities are charging ridiculous amounts of prices for education that doesn't make sense. I remember meeting classmates at Temple University who had went to college back in the 60s, and they were like, we were paying less than $2,500 a class, like for a year.
Right,
like
for a year.
they could work all summer and pay for the year.
Right.
There's no way I could pay $50,000, which is what my university cost, working a summer job.
I was talking to Matt before the show saying they're not addressing the cause here. And the only way to do it is actually putting caps on private universities. It's hard because they're private businesses. You could do it. I mean, there's ways of doing it, but there'd have to be
They're private businesses, but a lot of them still receive state funding.
Right. So that's the only way. Like, they're getting some kind of funding from the government. Then a government could do that. To me, and Liz Warren's plan is still very bold and substantial, but it's instead of $1.6 trillion in debt, it gets rid of $1.25 trillion. And the difference is it puts caps on things. So depending if you make between $100,000 and $250,000 in household income, only a portion of your debt is forgiven.
It would relieve I did the calculation. It would relieve $40,000 of my student debt, which is still amazing. It would enable people to invest in themselves and their families.
So what do you think between the two? The idea of Bernie's like, it doesn't matter how much you're making, and you could got lucky, came out of school and invented something, and now you're a millionaire, you get your debt gone rid of. While Liz Warren, it's more means testing. Like, if you're making a lot of money, some portion will be gone, but you're still have to pay something.
I kind of think Elizabeth Warren's strategy is a lot more realistic, and I think that it fits it recognizes that people are at different places of their lives, and depending on what you majored in, you actually could have the potential to make a lot more versus someone who graduated with an education degree and is working in a public education school, and like they're going to reach a cap even if throughout their lifetime. So I kind of like her plan more. I love Bernie plan because it would just relieve all my debt.
Just gone tomorrow.
But if I thought about which one is the more realistic one, it would probably be hers. But to your point, they have to address the root cause of why college tuition is so expensive.
As someone who went around to colleges for years, and now it's just like once or twice a year and spoke or did comedy or spoke, and I'd be in the middle of Iowa, in the middle of nowhere, a school you never heard of. I go, how much is school? Like $60,000 a year. I'm like, and you're paying that. I'm like, I'm looking at these people. I'm like, it's not like you got a Harvard degree. It's not even like you got a school degree that no one knows this school. And
it's so expensive.
By the way, Joe Biden did a little slight dig at his opponent saying, I'm not giving things away for free. He said here, I'm not saying let's make everything free for everyone. That's what he said today. And so he didn't mention anyone by name. He's going to the people in the middle who are like, why should they get free student loans? That kind of stuff.
But it's not free. Like, people keep assuming that the government's money comes from thin air. It is something we all put into. It is our tax dollars, right? And so the question is, do we want to create an atmosphere for people to actually be able to thrive and live in a society? Because we're either going to pay for it on the front end by helping to relieve student loan debt, or we pay for it on the back end when people have to apply for assistance. And that's what we're seeing. We're seeing middle-class families that used to qualify as middle-class families applying for welfare and food stamps in 2019. Right. And people who are making $125,000 a year who still can't afford to live in a city like New York with a family of one or two. It's getting disgusting.
I agree. I do like Liz Warren's plan because the mean testing, because it allows to save some of the finite resources we have in this country for those who need the help. I think if someone needs the help, they can't pay their student loan, and then you can get rid of the debt. I don't personally have a problem with that. Even though I had student loans, I paid them back. It took a long time to pay them back, and I did. The free college for college, university, for public, again, means testing, I'd be all for that. And I don't mind. To me, if you can make it work financially where it would be like high school, like it's free for everyone, that's fine. As long as it can still work and not dilute the education for everyone else.
But also it's the question of what can we get out of it, right? So if for instance, a lot of programs will say we'll give you free tuition, but you have to work 5 years in this industry. So you do 5 years as a teacher. So you're actually giving back to society. So I think there are ways in which we can ensure that both parties are gaining something from the experience, and we're not just, as Biden would say, giving things away. Even though I'm sure him being a white man in America, his white privilege got him a lot of free things.
So when you hear Biden say we're not giving things away, your visual reaction, which I can see in her face, is not a positive one.
I'm like, that's a privilege you should have.
That's
nice.
I think education is so vitally important. And as someone who, look, I was the first in my family to go to college. My mom had a high school degree and a little bit of city college. My father's an immigrant from Palestine who didn't even finish high school over there. Whatever schooling he went to, I don't even know. But he was a smart guy in any event. So I went through college. I assumed I was going to go because everyone was going. It was not anything kind of doubt. And my parents were like, okay, and we made it work. When I look, and then a law degree is really what helped me more than a college degree, to be blunt, because that postgraduate degree puts you in a different level. So, but when I look back now, I realize how important education is. I realize how much people give me credibility because I have a law degree, first of all, frankly, more than a college degree. But without a college degree, it's very hard to be taken seriously for so many applications. And then the postgraduate degree puts you in a percentage of only about 2% of Americans.
Which is crazy because there's actually no data that says that a college degree will actually make you more or less qualified for a job.
Oh, I agree.
So it's like we're giving this credibility to a piece of paper that oftentimes people don't even ask for verification that you have. You might mark it on an application, but I have never, since I've left college, been asked to present my college degree. Never.
Can I see your college degree?
Yes.
All right, thank you. So here's the thing. No, but there are some benefits to having a college degree that are not applicable to a specific job. And I think so much, look, there's a reason why, and this is not elitist, these are the actual numbers.
Give me the numbers.
Of white men without a college degree, 60% support Trump. That's way over. While white guys, just as white, with a college degree, who are even whiter because they have a college degree and they have more white privilege, support Trump around 25-30%. And even they probably have more white privilege because they have a college degree. There's something about learning critical thinking skills, something about being exposed to others who don't agree with you.
Yeah, I agree.
About and I feel for those people who couldn't go to college because they couldn't afford it. I think we should remedy that in this country. If you have the interest to go to college, we should be able to make that happen for you.
But then you should think to yourself then why the elite want to limit those who can have access. Because if you have an uneducated population in America, of course they're not going to vote on their own best interest because they don't even understand what you're putting before them.
I agree. No, absolutely. It is a ticket. And also on unemployment rates, look at the unemployment rates, even when you put crosstabs on race and education. But if you just look at education, the unemployment rate will be one thing, whatever it might be at any time. Just say it's below 4%. Not say 4%. High school degree and less, it's way above that. College degree and above, it's way below that. So it goes with you all through life. And I didn't know that when I was going to college and law school, just something I wanted to do. I wanted to go into politics, and law degree was a good thing. And I was a bright guy and I worked hard, so I was able to.
I was a bright guy.
I was like, I worked hard, and it wasn't like, look, my father didn't want me to go to college. He wanted me to, my parents owned a diner. He wanted me to stay in the diner and work as a cook. My mom, who didn't have a high school degree, who didn't have a college degree, but was born in America, she pushed for me to go to college. I want to go to college, but she would push back to my dad's conversations about
She wanted you
this.
to have more.
Because she understood the American, she raised me to be white. That's the reality.
Because you thought you were white for a long time.
I
Didn't you tell me that?
Well, my father wanted to name me Saladin, and my mom's like, what? We want him to fly one day. This is ridiculous. You get him a name
Literally.
Right, you want to get him a jet one day. No, so I was raised to be white. I really was. I was raised the idea of my mom, who, when my Sicilian grandparents came from Sicily, they were not white.
Yeah.
They were brown, they were olive skin, and they were Catholic, and they were demonized for that.
Well, I told somebody at the beginning of 2019 that I was going to live like a white man under the ideology that, like, I'm going to start thinking that I'm not going to question my ability. I'm just going to do it. Why not?
You should do that.
Why not? We
Exactly.
should all
And
live
how
like
does it
white
work?
men. Unfortunately, I will still get stopped by the police. Unfortunately, people will still realize that I have women parts.
Right.
So
No,
doesn't really work.
The weirdest.
It's a mindset.
Right. The most eye-opening thing to me, weird's not the right word, eye-opening and startling and shocking, is reading about where they'll say there are women who make less than men because there are all different reasons. But one is a man, when he gets his first offer, will counter and go, I want more. And women get their first offer and accept it on a bigger percentage. Like they did these studies. I'm like, why would any woman start? Why would you accept it? It's always the beginning.
I mean, it's the same reason why they say that a man will look at a job application and see that he has 3 out of the 10 and still apply, and a woman will have 8 out of the 10 and won't apply.
But why do you do that?
Because y'all have
Don't point at me. Don't you on me.
If I have to talk for all millennials and African Americans, you got to talk for all men.
Right.
It is because y'all have been told your entire life that the sky is the limit, that anything is possible, that all you have to do is ask for it and go for it. While we've been told to be quiet, to stand in the corner, and to like take what's been offered to us.
Who told you this?
The
Why are you not
universe,
told
the
same
world,
thing?
because y'all are men, and
That
y'all
is-
set the rules. Y'all actually told us this.
No,
It's your fault.
No,
It's your fault.
You're right about the first count, and that men are. When I was young, my mom. See, I got 2 schools of thought. My dad was an immigrant, so his thing is you have to work really, really hard, and you'll get things. My mom's philosophy always was growing up is see what you want and go after it. Don't let anyone tell you can't have it. So I try to combine the both. Work really hard. So there was my dad had no white privilege.
Yeah.
He was a brown guy with an accent, was Muslim. Work really hard and you get rewarded. My mom's was just go take what you want. So I'm a fusion person. Like I'm like 2 different, I'm like Asian food and like Mexican, like whatever, you know what I'm saying?
Versus I saw my brothers being able to leave the house and do whatever they want while I couldn't leave the porch. And that's how women are. We're told not to leave the porch.
And your brothers, we talked about it before, your siblings having legal issues, which then even though they're men, because they're black men, it's a whole nother level.
But not according to Donald Trump.
Oh, he must come back educated black, which is not even a black man, just black, like it's a thing.
I just want to be an educated black.
You know what's funny? You turn about silence and stuff like that. There's a line from the Bible, Timothy, which, and I always cite this to people and they get mad at me. I'm not citing it. I'm citing because it's in the Bible. Okay, folks, I'm not making this up. But there are, in the Bible, it says, Timothy 2:11-14. For those following along at home, open up your New Testament. And it says, let the woman learn in silence with all subjugation. But I suffer not a woman to teach, nor to usurp authority over a man, but to be in silence. And look,
And this is your God?
Right, no. Islam has got real problems with women. Judaism's got real problems with women too. Old Testament, crazy stuff. New Testament as well. All 3 Abrahamic faiths. One of their things they have in common is oppression of women. That's literally in black and white. All 3.
There's a lot of books that didn't make the Bible and that they were mostly authored by women. So I'm not surprised.
So this subtle thing, for some will animate some men to believe this is the truth. And some won't even say it. It can be subconscious. And that's what the point I always try to bring out. If you were raised in this tradition and you're raised that Like I was going, my mom's Catholic. I was raised both Catholic and Muslim. I went to Catholic school. We never learned this part. But if you go to maybe evangelical where you learn every part of the Bible because you take it literally, maybe.
Yeah. But you also didn't have to learn. You probably saw that there were only men in power.
I was in all boys school.
Yeah.
So I was in all boys Catholic school. So it was all men.
You have an interesting life, man.
That's right. Well, it wasn't my job.
Who are you really?
No, I went. My mom said it would be good to help me get into college, and she was
Your
right.
mom was strategic. Your mom
She
should
was.
have been president.
My mom was very strategic because she knew the public high school I went to had a pretty good success rate to go to college, but the Catholic school had like 90-something% went to college. It was normal. You're going to go to college.
Yeah.
That you went to Bergen Catholic, where I went to, or Don Bosco Prep, or these other schools. You were going to college. It was not even, I hope you make it to college. Like, if you're not going to college, you look like a loser.
Yeah, it's the next step. It's
right. It's a normal thing. And they post everyone every year who went where. So you're like, oh, I hope I get into a good school. So let's take a break and come back with more of Jamira Burley.
You're listening to the Dean Obeidallah Show, Sirius XM's Progress.
And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show here with Jamira Burley. Let's say a quick call here. Lupe from Lupe, how are you, buddy?
Hey, Dean, how you doing?
Fine. It's been a long time. Lupe used to call my old show. Go ahead.
I still call this one. It's just not as much.
All right.
Hey, look, I'm glad that you guys started covering some of the things that I would disagree with, paying for college for everybody. It is stupid. If you're going to tell people go to college and then we'll write off your loans as long as you go to see a teacher for 5-6 years,
right?
Go into the military, things like that, I'm okay with that. But just straight up cancel everybody's debts, no. We have too many people coming out of high school that cannot read or write, and then you're going to throw them into college when they're not prepared for that. They're just going to waste time where they could go and learn actual trades.
I don't think we're disagreeing with that. No one is saying throw random people in college that aren't properly prepared. We're saying that how is it going to hurt you, the American public, if we alleviate debt to ensure that people are actually able to contribute to society and up our growth and actually allow people to create jobs and to be entrepreneurs, so that we're not paying for them to be on welfare in order to take advantage of other social services that they don't need to.
Well, I have your solution. Let all those people coming from Honduras and Nicaragua,
yeah, all the white people are going to agree to that one.
No, I'm not joking. I live in the state of Texas.
Right.
In the state of Texas, 60% of all new businesses are owned by immigrants.
Wow.
So you're saying replace one minority group with another? It's because they're more hardworking.
No, I'm not saying no. Actually, no, because blacks and Hispanics are actually more entrepreneur than most whites. Now, this is very general, but if you look at the growth rate of businesses, they're growing more exponentially by minorities than by whites. Okay. Now, if you bring in people from Honduras who won't have the education but are going to go straight into the workplace, they're going to produce more than the people who are here. That's the sad truth about it.
But how does that help our economy?
People creating, filling a niche and doing jobs that nobody else wants to do will help our economy. This is a sad thing, but this is reality. If you can find 10 people to go work on a farm for almost nothing, that farm will produce more vegetables, more whatever it produces, which will allow that farmer to grow and sell more things overseas, which in turn will bring more money to the United States, allow that farmer to actually buy more equipment, tested by John Deere, Cat, things that are actually produced in the United States or in Canada, most of it in Mexico. It allows our economy to grow. That's true.
Lupe, let me ask you a quick question before I let you go. John Corn, you're senator from Mexico, not Mexico. You're senator from Texas, and I know he's not your senator per se. He's a Republican senator. He tweeted over the weekend. I don't know if you saw it. Texas gained almost 9 Hispanic residents for every additional white resident last year, to an article from the Texas Tribune. Why would a white Republican senator, and he wrote that by hand, that's not like the automatically generated thing there. Texas gained almost 9 Hispanic residents for every additional white resident last year. Was that a warning to white people?
Yeah.
Yeah, that he wrote that as a warning, but here's the reality of it, okay? I live in Odessa, Texas. A lot of freaking Mexicans. But right now, we're being invaded by Cubans who are truck drivers. They own and operate their own trucks coming over here to work in the oil field. Okay, that's a business. They're showing up and buying diesel at a higher rate. They're showing up and buying parts and fixing their trucks, buying houses, buying land. They're generating a lot of money. Whether you like Cubans or not, it doesn't matter. They're bringing and producing a lot of money here in Texas. And that's what the guys in Nicaragua will do, because they're going to show up in Texas and take up those jobs that not even the Mexicans from here want to do anymore.
Yeah, but that doesn't alleviate the fact that there are people who will be unemployable because they lack the skills needed to actually enter the workforce. Like, you don't, just because you have people filling a certain level of jobs that people don't want to have, there's still highly skilled jobs in America that are not able to be filled by people here because they lack those skills.
Okay. Then we actually have to, there's 2 things we have to talk about when you talk about high-skilled jobs. First is education in the United States sucks, especially here in Texas, but it sucks, okay?
No disagreeing there.
Our educational system is not geared to producing people who can fill the high-end, high-quality jobs, okay? We're not producing people in our normal.
So should we import people from China and somewhere else to fill those jobs? Like,
well, they have the H-1B visa.
Yeah, and see, that's why I said immigration as well, because you have to fix our educational system so we can have people to fill up those jobs. Second is H-2B visa for highly educated people. It has to change. That is a change. I mean, I've seen it happen. Mm-hmm. People come in here, take a job. I'm going to use...
got like 30 seconds before I have to go to break, Lupe. Go ahead. Okay.
You get Chinese people coming out here with a PhD, applying for a high-tech job in computer science, and they're asking for $45,000, $60,000 when a person here in the United States is going to want $120,000.
Yes, because they want to live and eat.
Right.
And, like, breathe.
Right. So
exactly. So
Lupe, I got to go to a break, Lupe. My friend, nice talking to you.
I'll answer. I have the answers for all your questions.
Thank you, Lupe.
Send it to Elizabeth Warren.
Okay, she's got a plan. All right, Lupe, nice talking. We'll be right back after this.
Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127. The Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obadala Show, Monday, June 24th. So, Jamira Burley, thank you for coming and solving all the world's problems in less than an hour. Check her out tomorrow morning. If you're up early, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. on this very channel. She'll be there all week, or you can hear it on demand if you're not up that early.
Yep.
What's coming up tomorrow? Anything, or you wait till...
Wait till tomorrow. I mean, anything could happen in the next few hours that will make it on the air.
Well, get some sleep. Thank you sincerely so much for coming in after doing 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. and going to bed when you get home. And back there, folks, thanks for tuning in. Tomorrow night will be one night before the first debate. Getting excited right here on the Dean Obadala Show.